welcome back to my homestead. Today is another preservation day. We have gathered the last of our peaches. They're a little smaller and we are enjoying eating them today. And I like to bake with them fresh. I like to freeze them, and I already showed a video about how I freeze them. Last year I made a big batch of peach jam that I canned and I put away, and I made so much that I still have plenty left over for this year. So I'm not gonna make any more jam, but I wanna preserve my peaches because you guys know my motto: when in abundance today, store away for tomorrow. So I'm not saying don't buy peaches in the middle of the winter, but let's face it, it's not the same. It's not the same. They're brought from far away, they've been transported on a long flight or whatever, and sometimes they don't really have a good flavor. So I like to store away my own. So today I'm going to be making peach compote. Okay, you're going to ask me, what is peach compote? Well, peach compote is poor man's juice, some people call it, because it's not juice where you literally put fruit into a juicer and you extract juice. No, you stretch your dollar, you stretch your berries and your fruit. Basically, it is making a drink. It's a drink. It's a sweet, almost like punch, I would say. And I'm gonna be making it a little bit more on the sweeter side. Why? Because in the winter, when you open that jar and you mix it with ice and ice melts a little bit, it's gonna be perfect consistency and perfect sweetness. And you can always dilute if you wish. So let me show you how I'm gonna be making peach compote, also known as poor man juice. All right. So let me show you the things we're going to need for this project. Well, obviously we're going to need jars, and you can choose any jars you want. I have very large jars because I like to make a lot of compote. But most common jars today's are the quart jars. So I'm going to give you the recipe for 1 quart, okay? So obviously you're going to need peaches, and I triple washed them already because I wanted to remove all that fuzz. And I'm going to keep the skins on. I'm just going to cut them up. And how many peaches you will need? Well, it all depends how much you put in a jar. I like to fill up halfway, okay? Halfway of my jars, okay? And then I'm gonna need sugar. This is white, plain sugar. This is cane sugar. I prefer to use cane sugar because it's non-GMO. Whereas beet sugar, if it just says white sugar, it's usually beet sugar, and that means GMO. I use cane sugar. And for 1 quart of compote, I'm gonna need half a cup of juice. Half a cup of sugar, sorry. Then these ingredients are optional. Lemon, I'm gonna put some lemon juice. Why? Because I like to add a little bit of acidity to my compote, and it complements the sweetness of the fruit and of the sugar. So I'm gonna be adding 1 teaspoon of juice, lemon juice, into each quart. 1 teaspoon into each quart, and it's not to preserve anything, it's just for flavor. And then I have my fresh mint, and my mint is blossoming. Can you guys see it? Isn't that beautiful? So I'm gonna cut off these blossoms. I'm gonna save them for tea because I like to add them to my tea, but I'm gonna be putting these leaves into my compote. Again, these are optional, and they do add a nice aroma to compote, okay? So what I'm gonna start by doing is I'm gonna start filling up my jars. My jar is already sterile and washed, and they're still a little hot from sterilization. And all I'm doing, I'm just cutting through peaches, and if there is a spot that I don't like, if it's blemished or something, I'm cutting it off, and I'm just dropping it straight into my jar. Because I don't spray my trees with anything, there is a chance of having some sort of a worm or something. So that's why I like to cut through, to make sure that they are perfect for my compote, okay? As I was preparing for today's making compote, I was reminded of a story that how my mama used to preserve compote, and she used to make so many different types with strawberries, and I already have a video how I make compote with strawberries and other berries. I filmed it last summer, and I have it on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link to that in case you guys are interested to see how I do that. But you can make this with anything, with peaches, with apples, with any berry, with any fruit, whatever you guys like. So I have close to half. I'll finish this one up. So I was reminded of a story that my mama used to preserve a lot of food. I mean, she worked so hard to feed her large family through the winter months. But then my brother's wedding was at the end of the summer, and we had a big wedding. I think they had like 400 guests at the reception. And my mom, and we were running out of drinks at the wedding. And Mama said, you know what, why don't you guys go back to the house and empty out the root cellar of all of the compots. That year, Mama made 40 jars of kompot. And those were not little jars like this or quarts. They were 3-liter jars, very large jars. And we had 35 left because Mama just made them in the beginning of the summer. And at the end of the summer was my brother's wedding. Well, his friend Peter and I jumped into my father's car. It was Zhiguli pickup, and we went back to the house, and we emptied our root cellar of all of kompots. We loaded them all up. So see how there's a damage by the worm, and I'm not going to be using this one. And we emptied the entire root cellar of all of kompots. We loaded all up in the trunk of a car, and we brought to the wedding 35 jars of kompot. So guests had plenty of punch. Poor men drank the entire wedding. So that's what I remember. So if my brother, hey, if you're watching, I don't know if you knew that, but we emptied our root cellar for your wedding, because and your friend Peter and I did that. All right, so all I'm doing right now, I'm just cutting off the imperfections, as I said, and I'm cutting off big chunks of peaches, and I'm just loading them up, okay? And I'll show you the whole process of turning this from fruit into fruit juice. It's pretty simple, guys. I promise you, it's pretty simple. Okay, so I filled them up pretty much halfway up, and now I'm going to be adding my additional ingredients. So I'm going to be putting that lemon juice that I was talking about, okay? So because I have very large jars, I'm adding more, but for each quart, 1 teaspoon is sufficient enough. Hopefully I have enough. Yes, I do. Okay, so lemon juice went in. Then I'm going to be putting my mint. And this is an optional thing, but I really like how it adds to the flavor. So I already washed my leaves, okay? So they're nice and clean. And I'm just going to pick the ones that don't have any damage or anything like that. And again, how many? If it's an optional, it's really how many you choose to use, okay? Here I'm just gonna drop in a whole branch. Few leaves is good, few leaves, okay? Because even though this will give out its color and eventually it's gonna become a little pale, but I do like the flavor that it adds to kompot. All right, so I have sugar next to me and water is boiling. So let me go turn that off, because I'm gonna need boiling water. Okay, so for each quart, you need half a cup of sugar, all right? And all I'm doing, I'm just literally dropping in sugar just like this, all right? Just like this. And I'm gonna top everything off with boiling water. So it's like a two-step process. It's a simple process. All right, so sugar's in. Sugar's in. And now I'm going to be adding boiling water. And I have to be careful. Where is that? And I have to be careful with boiling water because I don't want it to crack my jars open. So make sure that the jars are warm. But because I just sterilized them, I'm going to turn this up a little bit. because I just sterilized them, so the jars are hot and I'm not worried. And I'm going to be covering it to the top pretty much with boiling water. All right. I'm going to grab a clean towel and I'm going to cover them for 20 minutes. And they're going to sit just like this for 20 minutes. Okay, and now I have a clean towel and I'm just going to cover this and I'm going to let them rest for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes has passed, and now what I need to do is I need to take, and these jars are very hot still, so I need to strain them, and I'm going to attempt to do this without using any kind of gloves. And what I need to do is I need to strain it back into an empty pot. So I need to just strain the liquid and leave the fruit behind. So what I'm doing is I'm just holding some sort of a strainer or something like that, and I want to make sure that all the sugar on the bottom that may have fallen to the bottom dissolves. Okay, so I'm just dumping it in here, all of them, and I'm gonna put this water, this very nicely smelling water, back to boil. I'm gonna bring it back to boil, but in the meanwhile I'm gonna keep my jars still covered, still make sure that they stay still hot. Okay, so I'm gonna keep them covered as I'm not using them. All right, so let me strain this one. All right, and I'm gonna put it back to boil. Once it boils, I'm gonna fill up my jars again. Okay, so the juice syrup came to boil, and now I'm gonna be pouring it back into the jars. And at this point, it's important that I debubble. Okay, where's that thing? That I debubble as well, because when the syrup goes in, well, I call it a syrup because it's a sugar water, really. It's important to debubble because sometimes there's air trapped between the fruit. And if I don't do that, it's going to be way too much air in a jar. So I'm filling it up to about 1/2 inch of headspace. Okay, and I need to debubble, and then I'm going to be putting on my washed clean. I also get them hot, so I have my covers hot in the hot water here. So I need to debubble, and I don't have a debubbler long enough because this is a big jar, but if you're just using a quart, then just use a debubbler for the quart jars. Okay, and I have 1/2 inch of headspace, which is perfect. I have a moist paper towel, and I like to run on the edges because if there's any sugar or any syrup left, I like to clean that all up before I put the covers on. Okay, so now as far as the covers are no longer recommended to what is that, coffee maker? That's a coffee maker making that noise. Now it's no longer recommended to boil the covers, because I'll show you one. So here's a cover, right? And it has a special rubber ring on it. And in the olden days, you needed to boil it to soften it up before using. But now from the new recommendation, there's no need for that. But I still wash them and I still drop them in hot water because I like to work with everything hot. Okay, so I'm gonna finishing up, filling up all my jars here, and it's gonna go into the water bath canning. So this is a water bath canning process, and if you have a quart, it takes 20 minutes to process. Okay. Okay. It's important that there's at least 1 inch of boiling water on top of each jar. I'm using a really large pot. This is actually my pressure canner because it's very tall pot, and because my jars are big. So I'm just gonna put a cover on, and I'm gonna wait until it comes to a boil. I'm not gonna make a seal or anything. I'm just gonna put a cover on. And this is going to process. Quarts processing time is 20 minutes, but mine is bigger jars, so I'm going to give them more time. But yes, so make sure they come to a boil and turn your timer on for processing 20 minutes when the water is boiling. All right, friends, so while the canner is processing my Kompot, I just want to show you what it looks like. So I just pop the jar open, and I'm going to pour it over some ice. it has a really nice peach aroma, really, really nice. And it has a nice peach color. Look at that. I don't know if you can see it. Nice peach color. Mmm, summer in a jar. Okay, so I definitely can taste peaches, and that little lemon, I can get a little bit of that lemon as well. It's quite sweet, so what's good about it is that I have a lot of ice, and that ice is going to kind of mellow things out. Now, if this is too sweet for you and you want to dilute it with some ice cold water, that's fine, and then serve it in a nice beautiful pitcher to your family. Pour them in beautiful glasses, and it's going to be a beautiful jar of summer on your pantry shelf. Oh my goodness, just like my mama used to make. So friends, I hope you are encouraged to store away some of the summer goodness that we have right now. So we just collected last of my peaches. That's it, no more peaches. And I froze some peaches, and I made peach juice, peach kompot. Okay, so pour mint juice. So friends, be encouraged and try something new.